Simone de Beauvoir actually saw herself more as an interpreter of Sartre's work and a novelist as opposed to an actual philosopher, which is funny because I have a collection of her philosophical essays on existentialism, morality, and politics. And the title of this book is Idéalisme moral et réalisme politique. And the crux of all these 4 essays is basically l'antinomie entre la moralité et la politique. So you're gonna see like the difference between the ideals of morality against politics. So practice, what needs to be done in real life compared to just ideas of what we might have as being a good human being. The first one that I want to share with you has a bit of context before I actually start. So the example that she's using is actually heroism. So they basically do what they have to do, that they face every new day with fear because they know that there's a part that's not been won, and they know that it belongs only to them to surmount their anxieties. So with this context in mind, let's begin. La valeur de tel exemple est qu'il ne permet à personne de se déclarer irrémédiablement lâche. So the value of this example is that no one has the right to declare themselves irrevocably cowardly. C'est qu'il évite à l'homme la désillusion et le dégonflage qui sont la raison ordinaire des mensonges trop faciles. Because man actually surmounts his fear, there's no way anyone can call them cowardly. Because they have done the deed, they do what they need to do. If they don't have like the ideal sense of courage, they have still done the act. So she's basically saying that this excuses them from ever being called cowards. She gives you a pass at being human, that you don't have to face this huge disillusionment of you not reaching this crazy ideal because you are human. You don't have to be Superman to have courage. You just need to be a human who faced your fears. Mais il nous touche surtout parce que nous y voyons la condition humaine pleinement assumée. But this touches us mainly because we see the human condition completely assumed, completely accepted. Et il nous apparaît qu'en elle se justifie. That it appears to us that in assuming it or in accepting it, I love this word like assumer. It's not really like I'm guilty, I'm wrong, but just like you own up to it, you take responsibility for yourself. Sartre has this like severe optic on responsibility. And in this way, once you're completely responsible for your entire human condition, you are justified. You're legitimate with whatever you choose. C'est précisément le but que vise en général l'existentialisme, which is precisely the intended goal of existentialism. Il veut éviter à l'homme les déceptions et les bouderies moroses qu'entraîne le culte de fausses idoles. So they want to spare man of the disappointment and the sulkings that comes with the cult of false idols. The illusion that humans could actually embody any kind of absolute, and in this case, courage absolute. Il veut le convaincre d'être authentiquement un homme et il affirme la valeur de cet accomplissement. Existentialism wants to convince man to authentically be and to affirm the value of his accomplishments as a human living through the human condition. Une telle philosophie peut hardiment refuser les consolations du mensonge et celles de la résignation. Elle fait confiance aux hommes. Existentialism as a philosophy is one that boldly refuses the consolations of the lies of false idols, of this false idea that we have to be more than human, and that of resignation. The fact that like, dang, I'm just human. Elle fait confiance aux hommes, which is like my favorite line. So it's like basically the philosophy of existentialism trusts men. Oh yeah, and then that reminds me of the humanism of existentialism. It's in the book. So this makes me think of the Renaissance in art, where we come back to being kinder to human beings, where we kind of went back to the study of the human body, and also the humanist approach where the human is thought to be able to reach their highest potential through education and study and knowledge, and not because they're divinely chosen. So that's my first favorite part. The second one I want to share kind of actually goes back to this antimonie, the contradictions of two laws, morality and politics, where one is, the ideals, right? Like what is right and what is wrong based on like what is absolutely good, what is absolutely wrong, and real world practice with the human condition. Reading a lot of fiction by Simone de Beauvoir, I can say that I'm pretty sure she's extremely influenced by Hegel, and specifically Hegel's ideas on consciousness, where the beginning of L'Invité, which is She Came to Stay in English, her novel, she actually quoted Hegel's consciousness is the destruction of another. Keep that in mind as I tell you the second part. So the context of this quote besides Hegel is Kant. So Kant believes that to respect another human being, you treat them as an end to themselves, you respect them. And in that same way, like because you respect other people as ends to themselves and don't use them as an object towards a goal, you respect yourself. So the idea is that you can't break that law and respect the law at the same time. If you treat other people just as a means to an end, you're therefore treating yourself as a means to an end. Do you see the tension? There are times in life that you have to decide who goes first, right? I gave this example and it's like I'm throwing myself morally under the bus. So let's just talk about her example, shall we? Dans une morale réaliste, ce rêve de pureté est impossible. In a realist approach of morality, this dream of purity is impossible. Si l'homme est la fin suprême de toute action, il faudrait réciproquement que l'homme fût toujours envisagé comme fin, selon ce qu'exige la moralité kantienne. If man is an end, supreme end of all his actions, it has to be then that man himself is the finality, is the end, which is basically what demands from Kant. It's not only treating other people as man, but how you treat yourself as man, because you're both man, human beings. You're both human beings. If you treat like a rational human being with respect as a finality, you treat yourself as finality. If you believe yourself to be, you treat yourself as finality, you have to treat other people as finality. That is the rule. The pure Kantian morality rule. Mais l'antinomie partie tout, présent, avenir, exige des sacrifices. But the antinomy, which is again the contradiction of two laws, a part and the whole, present and future, it demands sacrifices. Car s'il ne faut pas détruire le but pour l'atteindre. So this is the Hegel thing, right? One must not destroy the goal to achieve it. If I treat that person as a finality in and of themselves, but I feel like they're treating me as an object, then I'm destroying myself to achieve this goal. And here she does the reverse. Il faut pas non plus, par contre, de le détruire, renoncer à l'attendre. So basically what she's saying here is you shouldn't destroy the goal, which is in keeping with the law of treating everyone as a finality by trying to achieve it. You should not also renounce trying to achieve it because you're afraid of not being able to reach this goal. Even though it seems like a huge tension of achieving neither of them. And that's why she mentions sacrifice. Il est impossible d'agir pour l'homme sans traiter certains hommes à certains instants comme moyen. So this is the sacrifice. It is impossible to act for man without treating certain man at certain times like means to an end. Moyen, like basically using men. In one of her memoirs, she actually says that I live by my needs and not my values. You have like Spinozas, right? Like the ones who actually live by their philosophy. And then you have Sartre and Simone de Beauvoirs who don't. This kind of goes back to the first one, where do you take like the lie that you are a bad person just because you don't meet the ideal of being a good person? Are you no longer a good person if one time you wrong someone else? And I know there's like degree of wrongness, and this prolific couple, their history is actually extremely immoral by many people's standards. I believe in the death of the author, where I disassociate their thoughts with their acts. That is in a way like me accepting the first thing that I shared with you, where just because she doesn't reach the ideal of being like a good Spinozian, morally upright philosopher, that I still appreciate her philosophy. It depends on your optics. I think like existentialism, based on the two things that I've shared, whether you get a prize of participation because you actually did your bestest, or if it's actually just a humanistic approach towards human beings. Once you do philosophy, everything becomes a lot more nuanced, but nothing is quite as difficult to attack, in my opinion, as morality. It is something that I think is extremely biased by a hierarchy of demands of society. But if I was to quote something else that I read, Simone de Beauvoir in The Ethics of Ambiguity, and I think like my memory has bastardized this analogy. There's a pole and you're sitting one leg on each side of the pole, and then your bone, your sacrum bone, is just on that metal rod, and you just have to accept that discomfort. And that is the only way to live life, with this idea that you're neither on one side or the other, but you are very present to the discomfort of existence. So I hope you found my little reading of existentialism interesting, morality, politics, cowardice, and I'll see you guys soon.